I remember, when was it? A few years ago, I think I was watching the Super Bowl. I think it was the Falcons and the Patriots. So those of you who are sports nuts will know exactly what year I'm talking about. I think it was 3 years ago. And the Patriots were behind maybe 28 points at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It was a blowout, over, done, forget about it. And they came back and they won the game. The odds of that happening were infinitesimal, any way you slice it. And yet it happened. And when that happened, I thought, so much shit, so much stuff that is impossible is happening. What's going on? And, I know there's a change in perspective as you get older, and, you look at things in a way that is, I don't know, I guess you look at things against a larger context and it changes your perspective. It's like climbing a mountain. The stuff you're seeing stays the same, but your perspective changes, so things look different. And I'm always trying to be conscious of that and remember that, perception is very much dependent upon where you are. And so as life changes, of course, as my life changes, my position in life changes, of course, things are going to look different to me. But then things are different. Things do change. You're looking down from wherever you are on your climb up the mountain. And, the fact is that there are weather patterns happening. There are various things going on down there that actually are changing. So I remember when I was sitting in Portugal, maybe the year 2000, and I remember this one. And the election was deadlocked between Gore and Bush. I was watching that play out, and I thought, wow, this is so strange. This is the kind of thing that can't happen. How does a national election end up in a virtual tie? This is unprecedented. And then, of course, I would say because of corruption, Bush ended up winning the election, and then 9/11 happened. Like, oh my God, this is unprecedented. How can this happen? And then I watch as the United States just stupidly stumbles into these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan for no good reason, making no sense whatsoever, but just through mass manipulation of the population, the United States acquiesced, and now trillions and trillions of dollars have been lost, many, many lives, total destruction of countries and economies and families for nothing. Absolutely no benefit whatsoever to the world, to the United States. The only beneficiaries of that are arms companies. And not even the people who work for arms companies. That's the thing. The companies themselves. I tweeted the other day that all this makes much more sense if you think of companies as an alien life form who have come down to the planet, and we never really see them as they are. How do you see a company, right? There's nothing to look at. You might look at a building where there are offices where people work, but that's not the company, right? The company can rent another building and move next door. So the building's not the company. The advertisements, the branding, well, that's not the company. Think about an ad for, whatever, some Archer Daniels Midland or some pharmaceutical company. Okay, let's call it profit-driven pharmaceutical. So you see an ad, and it's somebody in a laboratory wearing a white coat with a clipboard, and they're walking around and they're saying, we here at Profit Driven Pharmaceuticals are working night and day to make life better for you and your family. Okay, let's unpack that. First of all, that's not that scene. That's a set. That's not an actual laboratory where anyone's doing anything. So that's false. The actor who you're looking at is not actually a lab technician. That's an actor who was hoping he would be in TV shows or movies, but all he's getting at this point are ads like this. He's chosen because he looks vaguely like a sort of good-looking, scientific, nerdy guy. Might be a nerd, but he's actually kind of hot. So, okay, let's go with that guy. Square jaw. The person writing the lines is some guy who went to Brown University, graduated 5 years ago, was hoping to be a novelist, but he got offered a job at an advertising agency because his girlfriend's father works at the advertising agency, and now he's working there, and he's writing this bullshit copy that he fucking hates, but he's making six figures, and he doesn't have the balls to actually write the novel, or he suspects he's not really that good of a writer after all, so maybe this is the best he can do, and he's drinking too much and using too much coke because his life sucks, but he's writing this copy and it's being used, and what the fuck. Maybe he'll have some kids. That'll make him happy. Or not. So the words are written by someone who's never been to a laboratory, never even been to this company. The actor has nothing to do with it. He's just an actor. The lab is just a set. The people walking around in the background, they're just extras. There's nothing true in this ad. There's nothing real. It's 100% bullshit, including, most importantly, the message. Profit-driven pharmaceuticals is not working day and night to make life better for you. They don't give a fuck. At best, they don't give a fuck about you and your quality of life. And more likely, they actually don't want you to have good quality of life, because if you are healthy and happy, you don't need them. And the fact is that these corporations only exist. They only thrive by selling whatever the fuck it is that they're making. And in the case of pharmaceuticals, they only thrive if people are sick. So if they're making some kind of diabetes medication, the last thing they want is for you to eat healthily and get enough exercise and lower your stress so that you don't need their fucking diabetes medication. They don't want that. They want you to be sick. If they're making chemotherapy medications, they want you to have cancer. And I'm not saying that to demonize anyone. I'm not talking about anyone. I'm talking about this thing that is intangible. A corporation. I'm not talking about the people who work for the corporation. As I've said before, good people work at bad corporations. I'm not trying to demonize the people. People need to make a living, and this is the system we're in. It sucks, but you know what? I buy fucking commercial bacon, and I eat it knowing full well that pigs are tortured. So I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not holier than anyone. But it is amazing, isn't it, that our world is so shaped and so determined by beings that have no tangible presence. They don't exist in the dimension in which we do. You can't. I saw that PG&E was convicted of, I think it was manslaughter in the fires that killed hundreds of people in California a couple of years ago because they had neglected maintenance of their power lines. So all these fires that started were started by this company that had decided not to bother doing maintenance on these lines because it made economic sense not to. So they're convicted of a criminal offense. But what are you going to do? Who are you going to put in jail? PG&E is, You can't grab it. You can't put handcuffs on it. You can't put it in a cage. So PG&E declares bankruptcy, restructures, and continues to exist under a different name, maybe. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's a ghost.